If this remainder f of a equals 0, then x minus 2 is a factor, and this is called the factor theorem. This is the factor theorem, and this is the remainder theorem. One more time. The remainder theorem says that if a polynomial f of x is divided by x minus a, then f of a is the remainder. The factor theorem says that if f of a is 0, then x minus a is a factor. So basically, if f of x is divided by x minus a, the remainder will be f of a. If it's divided by x plus a, the remainder will be f of negative a. That is, we equate this to 0, it means x is a. If we equate it to 0, we have x equals negative a. In conclusion, if f of x is divided by 2ax plus b, then we can clearly see that if we equate this to 0, x will be negative b over 2a. So the remainder will be f of negative b over 2a. That's what it means. Let's see how we can apply this to the function f of x equals ax cubed plus 7x squared plus bx minus 8, where a and b are constant, is such that 2x plus 1 is a factor. The remainder when f of x is divided by x plus 1 is 7. So this means that if 2x plus 1 is a factor, remember it means f of negative 1 over 2 will be 0, because if f of a is 0, so when 2x plus 1 equals 0, x will be negative 1 over 2. So this is what this means. This is 1. The second part is the remainder when f of x is divided by x plus 1 is 7. This means f of negative 1 will be 7. That's what this means. F of negative 1 is 7. So this will give us two equations, equation 1 and equation 2, and we can solve for a and b. Let's look at it. We said f of x equals ax cubed plus 7x squared plus bx minus 8. It's such that 2x plus 1 is a factor, so f of negative 1 over 2 equals 0. That must give us one equation. The second statement says that the remainder when f of x is divided by x plus 1 is 7. That means f of negative 1 is 7. So let's look at this and use this to find the values of a and b. If we come to the first one, f of negative half, it means x is negative half. So a, in place of x, we have negative half to the power 3 plus 7, x is negative half to the power 2 plus b, x is negative half minus 8, and this must be 0. So we can simplify this. Negative 1 over 2 or to the power 3 is actually negative 1 over 8a. 7 times negative 1 over 2 gives us positive 7 over 4. b times negative half gives us negative 1 over 2b. And minus 8 equals 0. We can rearrange this equation. If we arrange it, we have a plus 4b equals negative 50. Let's note this down. This is the first equation. A plus 4b equals negative 50. Let's look at the second one. If f of negative 1 is 7, it means in place of x, we put 7. So we have a negative 1, because x is negative 1 cubed. Sorry, in place of x, we put negative 1. Very sorry. In place of x, we put negative 1. So a negative 1 cubed plus 7 negative 1 squared plus b, negative 1 minus 8, and this is equal to 7. If we simplify this expression, this is a times negative 1 cubed. Negative 1 cubed is a, so we have negative a. 7 times negative 1 squared gives positive 7, minus b minus 8 equals 7. So clearly, if we simplify this expression, we can get negative a minus b equals 8 as the second equation. So we have this equation and this equation. We can solve for a and b here. If we decide to add this equation, equation 1 plus equation 2, a plus negative a goes to 0. 4b plus negative b gives 3b, gives 3b. That's 4b plus negative b gives 3b equals negative 50 plus 8 will give us negative 48. Negative 42, sorry, negative 50 plus 8 gives negative 42. Of course, we can divide both sides by 3 to find b. So b becomes negative 14. If b is negative 14, we can find a, because from here, from this equation, negative a minus b equals 8. So in that case, a will be 6. And that is the values of a and b. So we can put them in our original equation to find the values of a and b, to find the function. So we can say that f of x equals a is 6. So 6x cubed plus 7x squared. B is negative 14 minus 8. All right. So that is a and b. The second part is factorize f of x completely. We use the long division because we have been told from the question that 2x plus 1 is a factor. 2x plus 1 is a factor. So when any function divided by its factor, the remainder is 0. So when 2x plus 1 divides 6x cubed plus 7x squared minus 14x minus 8, we must get 0. If you do not know how to use the long division to divide, please check my video on division of polynomials. If we divide 6x cubed by 2x, we have 3x squared. We multiply this expression here by 3x squared. 2x times 3x squared, we have 6x squared. 1 times 3x squared, we have 3x squared. When we subtract 6x squared minus 6x squared goes to 0. 7x squared minus 3x squared gives 4x squared. Then we are left with negative 14x minus 8. If we divide 4x squared by 2x, we have 2x. When we multiply this expression by 2x, 2x times 2x, we got 4x squared. 1 times 2x, we got 2x. If we subtract 4x squared minus 4x squared goes to 0. Negative 14x minus 2x gives negative 16x. Of course, there is minus 8. If we divide negative 16x by 2x, we have negative 8. We multiply negative 8 by 2x plus 1. Anyway, I have done a video on division of polynomial. Please check it. So 2x times negative 8x gives negative 16x. 1 times negative 8 gives negative 8. And when we subtract, we get 0. So in this case, we can see that just like we use the long division for 5 divided by 2, and we say this is the same as 2, 5. 5 divided by 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Remainder 1. We can simply say 5 divided by 2 is the same as 2 multiplied by 2. This 2 multiplied by this 2 plus the remainder 1. Plus the remainder 1. So we use the same procedure here. If we divide this expression, the dividend by the divisor, it means we have f of x being equal to 2x plus 1, the divisor, multiplied by the quotient, the answer, which is 3x squared plus 2x minus 8. So this is a linear function. Of course, we can factorize this expression. If we factorize this, we have 2x plus 1 and we have x plus 2. If you do not know how to factorize, please check my video on factorization. And these are the factors. Okay, let's look at another example. The polynomial s cubed plus ax squared plus bx plus 2, where a and b are constant, is denoted by f of s. It is given that x minus 2 is a factor of f of x. This means f of 2 equals 0. F of 2 equals 0. And when f of x is divided by x plus 1, the remainder is 21. This expression means f of negative 1 equals 21. So these two equations can help solve a and b. Let's see. If f of 2 equals 0, that means this is 2 cubed, that gives 8, plus 2 squared is 4a, plus 2b, plus 2 equals 0. And we can simplify this to be 2a plus b equals negative 5. This other part is f of negative 1 equals 21. This means negative 1 cubed is negative 1, plus a times negative 1 squared is 1, plus b times negative 1, plus 2 equals 21. And when we simplify this, we have a minus b equals 20. Of course, we can solve these two equations for a and b. We can simply add them. If we add them, 2a plus a gives 3a, and negative 5 plus 20 gives 15. So that means a is 5. If a is 5, we can put a here to find b. 5 minus b is 20, and b is negative 15. So clearly, f of x can be written as x cubed plus a is 5, so plus 5x squared, plus bx, b is negative 15, so minus 15x plus 2. The second part is solve this equation. Solve f of x equals 0. This simply means we can equate this to 0 and factorize. If we factorize this expression, we get 2x plus 1, x plus 2 equals 0, and we can easily solve for x. All right, so that is the end of this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you like this video, and see you again for the next video. Thanks.